and welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about if you have failed a medical coding certification exam, how long should you wait to retake your test? If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, so when it comes to taking any one of these 4 main medical coding certifications, because these 4 are the ones employers look for when they're looking for medical coders, the CCS, the CCA, the CCSP, or the CPC. They're both through the different associations. The first 3, CCS, CCA, CCSP, are all with the American Health Information Management Association. The CPC is with the American Academy of Professional Coders. If you have failed a medical coding certification exam with a HEMA, CCS, CCA, CCSP, you have to wait 30 days before you can retake. That's their cooling off period that allows you to go back and study. It used to be 90 days, which I think is good, because if you have failed an exam, whether it is by 1 point or 2 points or 3 points or 5 points, it is very important to figure out what happened so that you don't fail again. And it's not right to just try to keep gambling and say, okay, well, I'll just take it again, at 30 days and see how I do. You really do need to put in effort when you are taking that exam again. Now with AAPC, I don't know what the wait period is to retaking a test, although I have heard people say that they failed it 1 week and then the next week they retook it again, okay? What the scores were, I don't know. But again, here's the thing. Some of the packages with AAPC, there's an unlimited test attempts. So if you get really nervous, a lot of people gravitate towards that kind of package because they say, I'm not really good at taking tests and I get really nervous. You shouldn't get nervous, first of all, especially if you have been studying like you're supposed to. You're not going to go through all these nerves. A lot of these built up feelings that you feel, getting nervous about a test, is because you're not putting in enough time. And there's a lot of you that just do not put in enough time. And enough time is 20 hours per week. It is not only putting in 5 hours. You can't put in such minimal effort to learn this complex a field and expect really good results, right? So let's just look at it like this. Let's just be adults about this, because again, if you fail the test with AAPC, and let's just say you fail it by 2 points, and then you go and you try to attempt it again, and let's just say you fail it even worse. Say now you failed it by 5 points instead of just 2 points. The thing about it is, a 70 is a passing score for the CPC exam. This means because there's 100 questions, you can miss 30 questions and still you can, if you meet that 70, you're able to pass. But you missed 31 questions and you're not passing that exam. That's a lot of questions to miss. It is a lot of questions to miss. And yes, while the subject matter is vast when it comes to these medical coding certifications, it's important for you to understand the material, because these medical coding certification exams are competency exams. And while you are going to learn a lot when you get out in the real world, it's still very important that you come in with a solid base of knowledge coming in. And what is that solid base of knowledge? That is knowing how to look up codes in the code book, understanding the coding guidelines, understanding the rules when it comes to sequencing, understanding the rules when it comes to modifiers, or when it comes to evaluation and management, or when it comes to procedures, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot to it. So it's not something to just be cavalier about and be like, well, I just want to pass. It doesn't matter if I barely pass. Because here's the thing. Once you get your certification, you're going to be tested again by these employers. The employers have to give you an assessment test to grade your knowledge. And that's what they do. If you cannot pass these assessment tests that are given by employers, you're not going to get the job. So while you may have a credential that says, hey, I passed, and maybe you passed with a 70 if you're with AAPC, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get your foot in the door as quickly as somebody who is taking the time. And let's just say they passed with the 70 and they said, you know what, that was really close. It could have gone either way. So I'm going to go ahead and buckle down like Blue says and put these 20 hours in so that I can build up my knowledge, So when I am tested on the assessment test, I'm not going to do so badly. I have seen people who have lots and lots and lots of education who can't pass these assessment tests that are from these employers. And it's bad. It's bad, especially because some of them have degrees and they still can't pass these assessment tests. And so that's the thing that you have to really be focused in on when you're taking that second attempt. For me, what I would recommend is at least waiting 30 days. I know that sometimes it's the thought of waiting another month to take the exam again. It seems like a really long time. 90 days would seem like a really long time, but it would be fair, right? Because let's think about this. If you're putting in 20 hours per week and you're doing your test again in a month, that means you will have put in 80 more hours of study time. So that means you're really going to be competent with what you're doing when you're sitting there taking this test, because you have already seen what the test could potentially look like. And depending on which certification you're taking, right? With AHIMA, these are different exams every single time. They have a different exam set every single time you go in. So it will not be the same. With AAPC, I don't know how they do theirs. But the thing is, if you're going in there and you're just retaking the test and retaking the test and retaking the test and not really trying to figure out what you did wrong, like what can I zero in on? What is tripping me up? Because I had a lady months and months and months ago that was talking about how she just could not pass and she didn't know what the problem was. And I asked her, I said, are you looking at your score sheet? When you're looking at your score sheet, it's going to break down like by domain. And with AAPC, because it's broken down by subject in the CPT book, right? For the most part. And then it's got your other things like, reimbursement and stuff. But it's breaking down by subject, like what did you get based on that subject. So if you're looking at those scores, you can see, okay, well, I didn't do so well with musculoskeletal. I didn't do so well with the integumentary system. I didn't do so well with anesthesia. That's where you've got to concentrate. So working specifically on those chapters and reading those chapters is really what is going to help you, rather than just feeling nervous and then just, taking it again, just by chance, let me see if I can pass this test. So by preparing ourselves better for the second attempt or the third attempt, we're going to be more ready the next time we go in. When I talk about this, when I talk about preparing yourself for the exam and getting ready for your next attempt, the thing that should give you some comfort is this. You've already seen and felt what it's like being in the test room. Sometimes that's the bulk of where our nerves come from, is that we don't know. We've never been in this type of setting before. When I took my CCSP, I had to go to the Pearson VUE Center. Now, I had never been to this Pearson VUE Center, but I have been to a Pearson VUE Center many, many moons before that. So was I a little nervous? Of course, because you're like, oh my gosh, I want to make sure that I'm going to the right place. So what I did was I made sure that I did a drive-by the day before. I saw where I had to go. I knew kind of the building where it was at. So that way, okay, I know where I've got to go. When I went back in November, because I passed my CCSP in March, and when I went back in November to go get my CCS, I knew exactly where to go. It was very familiar. The people already knew who I was. I was able to get registered very quickly because I've already been through this before. So even though I was taking a different exam this time, I was a little bit more relaxed because I knew exactly where I had to be. This is where you get some benefit, having failed it, right? You can look at it like this. Okay, I failed it this time, but I know where to go, or I know what to expect. Because if whether you're taking your test remotely, if you're with AAPC, or you're with AHIMA and you're going to the Pearson VUE Center, you're going to already have that feeling of, okay, I know what's going to happen. I know the process. Now it's just making sure that I know the material. The material should not scare you, because if it's been 30 days and you're going to take your exam again in 30 days, it's 80 hours that you've gotten in. 80 hours of study, because you've been doing consistently 20 hours per week. And it is possible to hit 20 hours per week. I say this all the time. It doesn't matter if you have family, kids, pets, farm animals, it does not matter. 20 hours is attainable for anyone. Because trust me, I even do 20 hours per week, sometimes more depending on what's going on. And I've got a lot of stuff going on. So if you can do 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at lunchtime, 30 minutes in the afternoon, and then 1 hour and 1 hour, that's 3.5 hours you do in one day. You do this consistently for 5 days, that's 17.5 hours, and you have 2.5 hours on a Saturday or Sunday. And you're not sitting there the whole time with those books. You are sitting there taking breaks after 30 minutes, after 1 hour, and you're coming right back to it. And anything that you're getting stuck on, like if you are, a lot of people with AAPC tell me they struggle with anesthesia coding, which anesthesia coding is very limited. So I'm not really sure what's happening there or why there's not enough practice out there. But it is a very small chapter. It is a chapter that you can just review. You can look at all of the different codes that are in there for that particular chapter. You can read the anesthesia guidelines that's before that chapter in the CPT manual, and that's where you start to build that knowledge. And then also, if you're reading your coding guidelines or you're listening to your coding guidelines, a lot of people neglect that part. They think that it's just about the coding, which yes, it is. The coding has a lot to do with it, but a lot of the questions that people are getting lost on, like sepsis coding or injury coding or, mother-baby OBGYN coding, a lot of that is because they don't know the guidelines. And I'm not asking anybody to memorize the coding guidelines, but what I am saying that you need to do, if you haven't been doing it, is reading the coding guidelines, because you will have your book in there with you. So it's not like you have to memorize, because you just need to know where to find your answers. Because there's going to be questions that are going to come up on that exam, and you're going to be like, oh, wait a minute, which one do I have to do? So knowing exactly where to go in those guidelines, knowing what chapter to look at, that is what is going to help you to be able to find immediately where you have to be. And that you get with time, that you get with practice, okay? That you're going to get with practice. Now, think about this. If you're taking it in 1 month, okay, you're going to strike while the iron is hot. You say, I failed it only by 2 points, Blue. I know I can do it again after a month. Okay, great. You got those 80 hours in. You're going to have a higher probability of a favorable result than you would if you're going to say, okay, well, I'll just take it again next week. I don't want people to fail multiple times. Okay, I don't. And just because you have unlimited attempts doesn't mean that you should. You should prepare yourself. You should prepare yourself. It is your responsibility as a medical coder. It is your ethical duty to make sure that you are educating yourself. Because if you're not, and you can't seem to do that, you don't want to do that, this field is going to be very difficult for you, because you're not able to grasp things. And it's a lot. Yes, I say it all the time. We have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. But I say this in the most serious way that I possibly can, because again, what we do and what we select as medical coders and how we are educated is going to impact the patient, most of all, the patient and how much they're going to have to pay out of pocket, the provider and how much they are going to get paid for their services. And if we are changing codes or updating codes or correcting codes, they have to be correct, because the doctor is not designed to be the medical coder. The electronic health record is AI. That is all it is. And AI is meant to be a tool, not meant to replace the critical thinking that medical coders are bringing to this industry. So that's what I wanted to let you guys know, that even though you may have, if you're with AHIMA, and of course you have to pay to take every single attempt, you may have a lot of money, you may have somebody paying for you to take this test, and it doesn't matter, and then we just need to pass. Let's make a good faith effort to educate ourselves enough so that when we take that second or the third attempt, it's going to be that last attempt, because we're going to be able to get that certification. And with my AAPC folks, it's the same thing. Even though you have the unlimited package, or you have the package that is, if you fail it, you can take it again. Let's not take it and be so hasty to take it again right away in a week. Let's wait 1 month. Let's study those 80 hours. Or if you really want to say, you know what, I think you're right, Blue. I need to step back and I really want to make a good attempt for the next attempt. So I'm going to take the 3 months. I'm going to take those 90 days. And instead of 80 hours only, you're going to have 240 hours of study time that you will have put in. Tell me who's going to be the more confident coder walking in there. The coder that is not putting in 240 hours in 3 months, or the person that is actually doing that and getting those 240 hours in and making sure that they understand what's going on. Because again, you're not memorizing things. You're not. All you are doing as a preparing yourself for these exams is making sure you know where everything is, because you're going to have your books with you. These are open book tests, but it takes practice so that you know. And the people who have failed, you are in a good position because you know where your weaknesses are. You know what you did wrong. You know if you did not put in enough time. Okay, I know I didn't put in enough time. That's why I barely passed, or I didn't pass. I didn't pass by 5 points, or I didn't pass by 20 points. I know exactly what I need to focus on. Because just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just retake, okay? We need to have some, we need to have some discipline about ourselves, that we're going to go through, we're going to study, and then we're going to reattempt. I do agree that you should make a date. Whatever you failed and you're like, what am I going to do? Don't sit around and wait or overthink, because then you can, lose a lot of your knowledge. 30 days or 90 days. You're going to get 80 hours in of study, or you're going to get that 240. And that 240 is really going to solidify everything for you, because a lot of you are not doing that. You're not putting in enough time. If you're only doing 5 hours and you don't understand why you failed, it's because you've only been doing 5 hours per week. We need to get that time up. Well, Blue, I've only done 15. You see what 15 can get you. Not very far in some instances, okay? So again, I want y'all to be successful. And my message may not come to you the way that you would like it to be. And some of you would want my message to be a little bit softer. I can't, because to be ethical, you cannot be so like sugar. I can't do the sugar. I cannot give things with sugar. It has to be direct, because the more direct you give your message, the more it's going to reach the people. And it's not meant to scare you. I always tell you guys this all the time. It's not meant to scare you. It's only meant to prepare you, because learning as adults is a lot different when you're from children, okay? Because children, that's their whole thing, is to be a kid and be a student. That is their full-time job. As adults, we have children, we have other people that we're taking care of. We have houses, we have mortgages, we have rent, we have cars, we have, anything and everything that costs money. Okay, we've got all of that, and we've got that on our mind. So putting in the time, it may seem like a lot, but this is 20 hours per week is a lot, but it is, but this is only temporary. And this is just to get you through that phase of trying to pass the assessment exam. That's it. Your coding certification exam, not assessment, but your coding certification. This is all this is for. So if you can get through this, then when you pass your medical coding certification exam, whichever one that you got, and then you're out there, you're going to be a lot more confident, and you're going to have a lot more opportunities than the person that is not putting in the time, barely passed, and now they're trying to find their job, and they can't find a job because they can't pass an assessment. And now they're just like, did I waste all of this money? When the bulk of it is just studying. That's all the bulk of it is. And then when you're in the industry, that's when you start using the electronic health record. That's when you start using the encoder. So that way you can start using the tools of the industry to help and support your productivity, to help support your accuracy and that kind of thing. But it's still going to take you as a critical thinker. It is still going to take you to be studying on your own and to learn the language, learn the terminology, and learn the books and which book you have to go into, and understand these these different abbreviations and what they mean. And a lot of times I see people, they're commenting out there mixing up the letters for the credentials too. You can't do that, because if you start mixing up the letters for your credential, people are going to know that you don't know what you're talking about, because you should know which credential are you sitting for, CCS, CCA, CCSP, or CPC. Which one is it? You've got to get those letters right, because that's what you're going to be representing yourself as once you get that certification. Whichever credential you get, you have to put those credentials, those letters on your name, and you got to know what they are. And if you say, well, I just got confused, we need to study then, right? It's just like HIPAA. When I ask people, what does HIPAA stand for? And I get the deer in the headlights. You should not be deer in the headlights. All 4 of these exams talk about HIPAA, because HIPAA is that important. And yes, while all 4 of these exams also talk about the coding, the one main common denominator in all of these exams is HIPAA. And I still will see people spelling it with 2 P's. It is not 2 P's, it is 2 A's. It is 2 A's, okay? So just make sure that you know these things. But those things are going to come with time. They're going to come with practice. They're going to come with a lot of studying, okay? But it doesn't have to be overwhelming. I have plenty of videos on my channel about how to make learning fun. Because you can make learning fun. And you can make this industry a partner for you in growth and in knowledge building and everything else. I have grown professionally. I have grown personally. I have really grown with my knowledge as well in this industry. And this industry has given me that. But I had to see that. You have to see that. This is something that you learn now. This is why I tell people, when you're studying, you've got to study. And it is 30 minutes or it is 1 hour at a time. It is working with your workbook. If you're getting stuck, you put a pin in that, and then you put it to the side. You go to another subject, you come right back to it, and then you practice with it again. You need somebody to help you, you get on LinkedIn. You ask for a mentor. A mentor will help you for free. Or you can ask for a tutor recommendation. Tutor recommendation, if you have some money that you can spend on a tutor, that's great. If not, it's okay. You will find somebody who will mentor you. Or you can just post your question and not have to ask for a tutor or a mentor. And you'll find people who will be happy to answer your question. But it's trust but verify. Because if somebody's answering your question, you need to make sure that that answer is correct. So you're going to go and you're going to get that answer that whatever person gave you, and then you're going to look it up to make sure. You're not just going to take them at their word for it, because if you do that, you can get something wrong. Because sometimes people will be stuck in their habits and stuck in their ways, and sometimes they don't look at the guidelines that have been updated. That's another reason why a lot of people will end up giving out wrong information. And I've seen that. And so that's the thing that you want to avoid. Okay. So with that said, I want y'all to make sure that this is the thing. I don't recommend, if you have taken your test, to take it again in a week. Doesn't matter if you failed by 2 points. I don't recommend it. I recommend waiting at least 30 days. Okay. That way you can still strike while the iron is hot. Give you time to do 80 hours. And if you say, well, I don't have time for that, do you have time for another failure? Do you have time and money for another failed test if you have to pay to take the test again? Do you have time for that? Because it's better to get all your ducks in a row and concentrate on those subjects that messed you up because of your scores. Because even with a HEMA, they'll give you the domain breakdown so you can know where to isolate and find out where, okay, I messed up on this one, I messed up on this one. You know where to narrow down your study time. And so that way you can make it more efficient. But going through and getting that time, that is what is really going to help you. So same thing with AAPC, at least a minimum of 30 days. It doesn't matter if you have the unlimited attempts or you have the free attempts. You should at least, the free attempt with the package that you got, you should at least give yourself the opportunity to pass the second time with an even better score than you did from when you failed. Okay, because no one likes to fail, but it's not a reason to give up. It is not a reason to just throw everything away or just keep trying just until you pass. It doesn't matter. It does matter. It does, because even though, again, the employers are not going to care about what your score was, you are going to know. You are going to know. And that's what, at the end of the day, when you're going in there to do these assessment tests for these employers, or you're going in there to talk about what you know about medical coding, the stronger you are, the better your chances are for getting a job. And that's what it really comes down to, because a lot of people are afraid of that too, that they can't find a job. If you're coming in with knowledge, you're going to have a better chance of finding a job than somebody who's going to need somebody to help them. Because there's a lot of places that they don't have the time. These employers don't have the time to teach. They don't have the time to train. That's why they want people who have experience or they have knowledge. They're not going to say, well, we'll take a knowledgeable person. It's going to take the person that is applying and seeing that they want 2 to 3 years experience and they're brand new with no experience to still apply anyway, because it's free to apply. I'm just saying. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. It's just my advice, guys. I've been in this for 17 years. I really love what I do, and I don't like to see people being taken advantage of, and I don't like to see corners cut, okay? I want people to be solidly educated, and it is possible to solidly educate yourself, but you've got to put in the time to do it. And just trying to roll the dice and take the test again, I mean, you could always do that. It is up to you. But for those of you that are going to listen and say, you know what, I'm going to try it this way, then you'll see the results. I'm just saying. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye.